This here is a worm hotel. It's truly a remarkable place where I can allow worms to thrive in an environment while decomposing food waste into soil and worm castings. I've created this from a Rubbermaid tote bin, two in fact. What I've done is I've picked up and purchased a large Rubbermaid tote bin and found this used small Rubbermaid tote bin. Worms, this is their home. Worms require lots of air. They need air just like humans, and in doing so I've created plugs here, holes, so I drilled in holes right through here, and then I added these soffits which I got from a department store. Got a nice perfect fit so that the worms can't escape should the environment be hostile to them, which I don't think it will be. And if you come in a little closer, you'll see inside the bin what I have on top here. This is a cut up burlap sack from used potatoes. So I went to a grocery store. You really have to seek these out at health food stores or farms. And I said, do you have any used burlap sacks from wholesale potatoes? And one place did. So I cut it up, and this is going to be useful in keeping the right temperature and also providing protection for the worms. You then create a bedding. This is the important part for the worms. Is a bedding needs to be made from material like paper, something that has carbon matter in it. And this is going to give the environment that helps to balance the nitrogen food scraps that I will be putting in this bin. It's also a protective layer, and it can hold in some humidity and dampness. So it's important that once I put my worms in here, I moisten and soften this bedding with water. A spritzer bottle is ideal so that it's just the right moisture so that when I wring it out, it's not dripping water. It's like an unwrung or a wrung out sponge. And this bin is going to hold at least a few pounds of worms. I'm going to start with 1 pound, which I'll go gather shortly, and they'll soon replicate into thousands and thousands more. Worms replicate extremely fast if you give them the right environment. Underneath, I drilled more holes and I put more soffits at the base. Now, I would have done this differently in hindsight. I think because at the bottom you want ample drainage for the worm castings, the liquid that can then be used as fertilizer for your plants. You want ample drainage, and in doing so I would have drilled a larger hole here and put a larger soffit so that it's one main drain for the worms. And that then would have allowed me to take the soffits that poke out on the inside and just use a reciprocating saw to cut it away so that it will drain amply. These work and it will perform the function I need it to. It's just not as aesthetically pleasing. Underneath, I've used a couple bricks. This is going to prop up the other Rubbermaid tote bin so that what drains can then collect underneath here, so that when it comes time to collecting what's been draining, the worm castings, I could just remove the worm bin and pour the contents here into a watering canister to dilute it. It's a very simple homemade bin that cost really under $10, including all the parts. The last thing I want to show for the lid though is slightly different than the rest of the bin. What I did here is I drilled holes, and you know, I would have actually done it differently as well. I think I would have done probably once more one main large hole to get airflow. But I got a little excited with the cordless drill and I just started drilling holes, not exactly knowing what I would do. And when I realized that these plugs cost more than what I've used here, I decided to go with this method. And what this is just a used window screen. So I went and got used vinyl window screening and cut it to the right size. I stapled it in just to hold it in place, and I glued it and then removed the staples so that it's not going to cause any harm. Very easy. This should work well for my needs, and it's going to prevent any critters like rats, rodents, or wasps from getting inside the bin. Have a wonderful day, and I'll talk to you soon, after I get back from my tour to collect worms.